I'm Marvel. This channel exists to connect gamers to MMOs they'll love. In this video, we explore the MMORPG The Lord of the Rings Online in 2022. Having just celebrated its 15th anniversary, this MMORPG is one of the longest running and supported MMOs on the market, with scores of new content available now for free, receiving very positive reviews, and with reasonably low system requirements to play. There's never been a better time to enjoy Lord of the Rings Online. In the words of another, from class to race, from quest to dungeons, all fun, all the time. Let's see what it's all about. Thank you for watching and subscribe for more MMO content. Upon loading in, you're greeted with a luscious soundtrack and crisp visuals grounded in Tolkien magic. After you click New Character in the bottom left, you're presented with two major choices, which race and class to play. Like in Dragon Age Origins, many of the races have unique starting stories. The Unlock button is confusing because it in fact does not refer to the race, but the class. You can see the coin icon at the top right, which means the Brawler class is stuck behind a paywall, not the High Elf race. In particular, the High Elf was once a premium race, yet now is available for free. There are 11 classes from which to choose. Perhaps similar to Druids in EverQuest, the Runekeeper appears to be a versatile mage class who needs to prioritize whether to damage or heal. There is also a cinematic movie you can watch to better understand the trajectory of your class. Customizing your character requires that an origin is selected, which appears relevant only if you're keen to roleplay your class. Otherwise, you can customize your character using a range of sliders to the right. Time to begin. High Elves have the newest starting tutorial of all the races, so hopefully it will impress.
In the year 3434 of the Second Age, a great alliance of elves and men assembled in defiance of the Dark Lord's will to conquer all the lands of Middle-earth.
Are your senses being pulled in several directions too? The scene itself is tugging me forward into this climactic moment in Tolkien lore, yet the UI is simultaneously drawing my eyes left and right with UI notifications. I can't be in three places at once, and the power of this supposed epic moment is difficult to appreciate. Despite the theatrics of the scene, because the UI is telling me to open my bags, I do. You can see many free celebratory gifts for LOTRO's 15th anniversary. They include cosmetics, HP boosts, mounts, and cosmetic pets. Every character logged in during this time receives them. Moreover, LOTRO's controls are relatively smooth and responsive. Additionally, the world design is functionally perfect. However, my character floats down after jumping, which feels unnatural. But we've kept Hearthlyn waiting for too long. The golden ring above her head indicates that she triggers a main story quest.
My dearest friend, as Sauron surely knows, the mastery is ours in this battle.
I appreciate the voice acting, yet the reception is slightly jarring because only the third sentence is spoken. So my eyes and ears again are not unified. Hopefully this will not be a pattern. Regardless, we're now asked to listen to the High King's address. While I'm not a Tolkien scholar, I believe this scene takes place during the opening battle of the beloved movie we originally enjoyed decades ago. The negative space between the soldiers correctly leads you down to the Elven King. I thought I had to click on the king to trigger the next step, so I was left waiting in confusion. More baffling is that the king himself is not voice acted, so you simply have to wait until the strobe of text finishes. The magic of the moment would have been preserved had they also hired a voice actor here, yet the player is left just waiting with nothing to do. So as I let them finish talking, I accessed the UI settings to make some adjustments. I understand the sentiment of this review, which states although the game is showing its age and the current new player experience is an overripe onion of old disjointed systems, there is a gem here for those willing to do some archaeology and dig through the layers. Let's see if we can find it. We must now muster the courage to venture deeper into Sauron's abode. Hear the clash of weapons? But do you see any fighters? This is the third time my eyes or ears have led me astray. Why spend so much developer time crafting this unique experience if corners like this are being cut? But it doesn't stop here. See the Nazgul? Finally time to wage the war the king just announced. But, nope. It's another long pseudo-anticlimactic cinematic of an action. But I do take this time to see if the Gulf of Flames here does any fire damage. Nope. Still waiting for these fantasy politicians to agree to disagree, I open my inventory. The icons here are quite small, which has been noted by another who wrote that LOTRO really needs to update its graphics. I couldn't get past the fact that the inventory was so small graphics-wise. Regardless, I open up some gifts. Lo and behold, a kite in Mordor. I choose to ironically fly it in playful protest because this tutorial juxtaposes two extremes: gorgeous world building against disjointed systems. We're now tasked to find a lost garrison ahead. We're now able to experience combat. I love the detail that when I'm struck by an arrow from this archer, the high elf jolts back with the shaft jettisoning out. But this mob actually presents no danger to me because my tune's natural regen outpaces its damage. Plus, I can kill it in one hit. While combat does become more difficult later, this first taste in fact teaches us that mobs are no more dangerous than the Nazgul who uncharacteristically didn't attack me. I should add that for an unknown reason, the game temporarily upscales your level to 110 during this tutorial, yet doing so serves no actual purpose. I can't use level 110 spells, I don't have any legendary items, and I don't have access to any advanced features. My character and my knowledge of the game are still effectively level 1. The game even tries to later justify why you start really at level 1 after you finish this tutorial. But none of this serves any real pedagogical purpose. Be that as it may, when you need to rescue Prince Thranduil, I imagine that many players get lost because it is not clear that these webs are the indicator of where to go. Having experienced enough massive garden spiders in the plains of Kansas in my younger years, my first reaction to seeing webs is to stay away, but that's precisely where you need to go. Regardless, it's here that you are introduced to content that is reasonably challenging in a system used periodically in combat: Dread. Dread is a debuff that ordinarily reduces your total HP, yet here does nothing for some reason. Regardless, now the first taste of actually difficult combat begins. By this time I already had a sense of what my 4 abilities do. Scribe Spark is a quick cast lower damage spell. Fiery Ridicule deals damage and layers a DOT. And Prelude to Hope heals initially and over time. Healing and damage contribute to the Ring Keeper's attunement, which is their class feature. In short, the more damage spells you use, the more damaging they become, and vice versa with healing. Yet note that these are at the expense of the other. The degree of attunement you have function like charges to be spent, similar to Rage in Guild Wars 1 that the spell Shocking Words uses to stun and damage. After rescuing the prince, you're tasked with blowing up barrels. More importantly, this style of quest is an indicator of the type of quest that you will be doing for the rest of your time in LOTRO. If kill X and collect Y tasks are not your cup of tea, neither will LOTRO, but the ambience, world building, friendly community, and years worth of content may be. Friendly tip: after you've completed the barrel bombing, follow these glowing hoof prints. They lead you to where you need to go next. After beating up some men from the east, you run up this flight of stairs. The scenery is gorgeous. The howling wind is a fitting overlay to the tense musical score. It's desolate here, and you can feel it. The color palette is perfect. It's as if the blood of fallen men and elves has painted the hopeless sky. The landscape rolls into the distance, beckoning adventurers to draw near. As you look down into the flaming pits of the field, you sense that you are in the midst of an apocalyptic battle determining the future trajectory of the ages. The world designers of LOTRO are exceptional. I wish the tutorial felt like this moment from the very beginning. But now we must confront the Witch King. The bodies that lay before foreshadow our fate. Even though I wish that this dialogue was voice acted, the background, infernal flames, volcanic lighting, and screeching soundscape create the perfect atmosphere of doom. Except that I'm flying a kite. Yet, anticlimactically, without a fight, you're defeated. This is admittedly the perfect inversion to the archer we effortlessly slain earlier on, so I suppose there is balance in the force. But now it's a few thousand years in the future, which has caused our body to dwindle back to level 1. I also apparently had a death grip on that kite. Jokes aside, while that tutorial has much to be desired, let's give LOTRO another shot. Surely the diamond is here somewhere. Since I love bards and MMOs, I'm lured by the siren call of the minstrel. While their role is primarily a healer, they also become capable of impressive damage. Moreover, they utilize LOTRO's legendary music system. Note here that I have selected to skip new user tutorial. This will become important soon. We're here near Thorn's Gate. Nostgrim's song begins an intro quest that I thought we skipped. In actuality, there is in fact a pre-tutorial that precedes this training. I have no idea why games think you need 2 back-to-back functionally identical tutorials to teach players their game. This initial series of quests is important narratologically because it introduces players to an initial antagonist while foreshadowing issues in the valley below. A detail I love here is that when you walk near the minstrel trainer, you can hear them performing music.
Greetings to you.
We're then instructed to speak with Dorniel about what happened at Hellion. Had we completed the elf starting tutorial, we would have fought in the battle that ultimately caused its destruction. Deeper into the ruins, we meet Duringer, who laments the sacrificial death of Talagan Silvertongue, who stopped Storgrim the dwarf by bringing down the Adhelion library upon them both. See the bush with crimson leaves? This is a great example of foreshadowing. But Skorgrim's body is missing. We're asked to delve a mine to find the corpse. Note that the objective text of the quest does not include any reference to a mine. You'll need to carefully read the quest dialogue to ensure you know where to go. Yet, if you forget, there is a ring helper icon on the map to help you find your way. I wonder if the body lie in here. Inside, we're greeted by a cave claw. The minstrel's class feature is similar to, yet distinct from, the rune keepers, as both use a charge system that activates a powerful ability. However, it differs in that you can change your stance that not only affects what many of your songs do, yet also the skill that uses your charges. You can even quickly swap between stances mid-combat to address needs as they arise. Also, when you defeat a mob, you automatically loot its items. I love this system. They go into a temporary storage place that can be accessed on the bottom right of your screen. We find a section of the cave, into which rays of light spill in and find those crimson flower bushes. We pick them up despite them appearing deathly poisonous. What could be their use? We backtrack all the way to Eladon, who notices that they're foreign, which is suggestive of xenocratic powers. But as we read his comments, he also quips about goblins existing beyond local walls. He's technically accurate, although the reference is admittedly distracting here. We journey back down into the valley and see a string of crimson bushes. Regina, despite having walked into Mordor, is here with me also picking flowers. While out of place, it's likely because our characters have been tagged with the Mordor expansion, which comes with its title. With the population bump as a result of the freely added content, there are many players around. This observation corroborates this review of LOTRO, in that it's a great game that, for the most part, stays true to Tolkien lore. They've been consistently adding content for 15 years, so this is far from a dead game. These dwarves are actually our enemies, so it's surprising that they're letting us this close. They are the descendants of Skorgrim, who assaulted the elven city earlier. We inquire about the corpse, yet we're refused entry into his burial chamber where we suspect his body lay. I actually agree with the dwarves here. Why should they allow us to examine the body of their fallen king? Instead, we're permitted to visit his shrine, in a rock belly pit. This surely isn't a trap. You turn the bin to enter. Interior areas, mines, and caves are superbly done in LOTRO. In fact, Mines of Moria, a fan-favorite expansion, features almost exclusively only delving. Once you enter, be sure to run straight toward the statue until you complete the quest step. I got lost later trying to figure it out since I assumed simply looking at the statue was sufficient. We're also here to collect stones for a dwarf outside, therefore a certain ritual. More foreshadowing. We're led to the first outpost in which special vendors provide their services. For example, like Guild Wars 2's costumes. Mannequins showcase premium outfits you can use to customize your character, but we need to speak to Dwalin. We learn that there is in fact a feud amongst the dwarves, which is represented by the statue behind Baldy. Dwarves of Thorn's line are sick and the local ecology is suffering at the hand of Skorgrim's lineage. They need someone to help. Deep in a corrupted mine grow healing herbs, which we need to administer to the sick dwarves. Yet, lurking below are tainted spirits, vastly more difficult than foes we've previously encountered. This is signified by its notable change in color. Good game design. But before I know it, I've drawn an ad. I'll need to manage damage output and incoming healing appropriately to make it out alive. Raise the Spirit is a heal. Minor Ballad deals damage, provides a buff, and makes the special skill of the minstrel more affordable. Major Ballad deals damage while making healing briefly more effective. Dissonant Strike is a melee ability that also removes a corruption from your character, much like condition clearing effects in Guild Wars 2. Finally are the stances. Passively, each one respectively buffs damage, healing, or a balance of both, while providing a special skill called a coda, which corresponds with the function of the stance. Musical listeners, I'm sure, are grinning at these terms and their influence on class design, as it appears LOTRO's game developers are either musical or took careful notes from a musician. Moreover, notice the AoE ability from the Ghost. While an older school game, combat can, and does, require dexterous reactions to avoid unnecessary penalties in melee. More importantly, there is difficult overworld content for players. Foreshadowing roving threats, a type of a world boss system in LOTRO, these undead creatures here ultimately point to more difficult open-world content players can aspire to conquer. Upon returning to the outpost, you apply the salve to the sick of Thorn's kin. Yet surprisingly, you need to sleep. I honestly wish this part happened sooner, because of its significance and quality. It's a long and inspiring cinematic that points to content the player can expect to play in a gorgeously crafted elven garden, with excellent voice acting. In scene after scene, areas the player will venture to later are showcased, which helps contextualize macroscopically why our little efforts here are meaningful. This series of scenes underscore the sentiment from someone who has played for over 1,200 hours, namely that LOTRO has so much content to enjoy. We're now ready to investigate the ritual now that we've healed some able-bodied helpers. Showcasing future group dungeons like the Barrow, this instance is really a safe tutorial for collaborative content later. Well, we finally found the old dwarf's corpse. And, unfortunately for us, we were the ones who provided the stones necessary to complete what you're about to see. I love the quality of the animations and the cinematic theatrics of the scene. The possessed dwarf maintains his role as an antagonist deeper into LOTRO, which is an effective storytelling anchor. But more pressing is defeating Gormer. As a reminder, he's the guy who told us to go into the pit to admire the shrine earlier. During this battle, you can see that I'm able to use the minstrel's coda that finishes the group of melodies played just before it. But there's more. I level up to 6, which opens up class traits. Akin to classic WoW's talent trees, choosing a trait helps define how your character performs in combat. I open up the trait panel by pressing J. Since I like to play support classes in MMOs, the yellow line is an obvious choice for me. Doing so granted me 2 additional codas, so now I have even more choice as to how to spend my charges. I love this flexibility even at such a low level. I think we found the gem. After speaking with Twal, and once you finish running from the crumbling tomb, you're mysteriously teleported to Keladim, an elven city in another zone. This transition is admittedly jarring because there's no obvious explanation how the cave system connects to this dock. Be that as it may, now the adventure can begin. So, how's The Lord of the Rings Online in 2022 for new or returning players? In the words of another, LOTRO is a classic low fantasy MMO set in a familiar, rich world with a staggering amount of free-to-play options. Thanks for watching.